Joining us now with analysis of last night's debate is Professor Emily Sydnor. She is the Department Chair of Political Science at Southwestern University. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we just heard from some Democrats who are very concerned about the president's performance last night, some of them calling for possible calls of a replacement. What is the likelihood of that happening, and what would that process look like?
Sure, I think it depends a lot on the president's choice. If President Biden chooses to step aside, then all of the people that are sort of deciding to vote for him in the convention are sort of free to make whatever choices they want, and they can cast their votes at the convention for a different candidate. If he doesn't choose to do that, there's no legal obligation for folks to vote in that direction, but it would be a sort of unprecedented move to move against what primary voters have already decided, and so there's not a clear path forward if he doesn't make that choice on his own.
So in fairness, both candidates said things that weren't true last night. President Trump may have said a few more things that weren't true as we're getting the analysis of all of the different things that they said. He talked about things regarding abortion, regarding the stolen election in 2020. How is that sort of stuff impacting people who might be watching who don't get a lot of experience seeing either one of these gentlemen?
Sure. I think it depends a little bit on what perspective they're coming from, right? If you're coming into this with a sort of attachment to a particular party already, then hearing that he's lying about different things isn't necessarily going to change your perspective a whole lot. If you're coming in without much experience with either party and you are truly one of the sort of unicorns in politics right now, an undecided voter, then you might believe it, right? And the challenge with misinformation and falsehoods that are sort of presented on news like that is that it's hard to sort of replace them. That even when information has been corrected and we hear, okay, it isn't exactly the way that either candidate has portrayed it, it's hard to sort of rewrite our memories and say and let go of that information. So it could have at least an effect on what people believe has been happening under the Biden administration.
Okay, so there was a significant focus, as we know, on the border and immigration. Former President Trump criticizing rising immigration during Biden's term. How does that really impact Texas voters as they really watch closely? That's a hot button issue in our state, and they're watching that policy closely.
I mean, I think this comes back to the question about misinformation, right? If we look at data around migration under Trump and under Biden, they have similar numbers, right? Both of them have higher counts at moments in their tenure as president, right, up around 4,000 or so, and they've put into place policies in the case of Biden, or in the case of Trump, the COVID-19 pandemic, have then reduced the number of people crossing the border daily. And so it comes back to the same sort of question about, are there actually sort of changes in policy, or are they both trying to frame the issue in a way that draws voters in?
There used to be a school of thought, I remember, that debates really didn't matter much. It feels like this might be a little different. I think they're estimating 70+ million people would be watching. We'll probably get the exact numbers later on, either today or throughout the weekend. So how much did this debate matter?
I think it depends on what our outcome is that we're interested in, right? So if we think that this debate has persuaded a great number of voters one direction or another, probably not a great deal, because there just aren't that many people out there in the United States today who are really at a loss about what decision they're going to make, even sometimes if they say that they are. If we're looking at turnout, right, what both candidates need is to get people on their side out to vote in November. And there, I think they have a harder hurdle to overcome. And Biden, I think in particular, after last night's performance, has a greater hurdle in that he has to get a lot of people who are worried not only about some of his policies, but also about his fitness for office, to still come out and vote for him.
Okay, Professor Emily Sydnor, thank you so much for being with us. And they're back on the campaign trail. They'll have another debate in a few weeks, so we'll certainly have analysis of that as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks again.
We'll be right back.